Hello, everybody. Welcome to our latest session of AI in 30. We're so glad you're here. I hope you enjoy this session. I will apologize in advance that I've had this cold, seemed to be fine. This morning I woke up, my voice seemed fine, and over the last couple hours, my voice is degrading. So I hope that you will bear with me as we go through this. Let me also say as a preemptive comment that I am by no means a statistician. So today we're going to talk about how to use Copilot to do your quantitative data analysis. I know and I suspect that some of you are really into statistics. So if you ask a question like, does this do Covell's analysis or regression model or something like that, I'm going to say right ahead, I'm not going to be able to answer that question. I am a novice at statistics and do not have the depth of knowledge that you do. So just take that with what you can. So what we're going to do today is walk through how I've been using Copilot to do some data analysis. And we're going to do three things today. We're going to use Copilot as a in the conversational tool that you get with your OS 365 subscription. We're going to do that to generate some descriptive statistics. We're going to do a regression. And one of the most powerful things that I found about using Copilot is the visualizations that it can give you. Just a very useful tool. If any of you have tried to do visualizations in whether it be SPSS or Excel or R or whatever, you know that sometimes it could be very cumbersome. So just the kind of things that you can create. Again, you might be looking for things that are more sophisticated than I'm going to show you. And I don't know if Copilot can do those more sophisticated things, but I'd love to work with you to help figure those things out. After that, we're going to jump into Excel and do a few things in Excel. And again, you serious statisticians, I know that you're going to sort of stick out your tongue and say, well, we don't do stats in Excel, which is fine, but bear with me and we'll see what we can do and how this can work. And then finally, we're going to just talk about some responsible use and guardrails and things that, again, you statisticians know this as a matter of fact. But the big thing that we're going to really want to emphasize is that tools such as Copilot or Jasper or whatever kind of statistics do you use is not going to make anybody an expert at quantitative data analysis. You still need to have that knowledge, have that background. So Joe Smith off the street's not going to be able to come in and do regression models and chi-squares and all these things and all of a sudden be an expert at statistics. Even with Copilot and being able to do these kind of tools, and you all know from your own data analysis that half the battle, part of the battle is getting the numbers. And then the big battle is interpreting that and analyzing that data and asking questions about that data. And so Copilot can give you, and you'll see, give you responses and answers to some of the things that you're asking. But at the end of the day, you need to analyze these tools on your own. So we'll talk a little bit about that more if we have time. So we're going to use two data sets for our analysis today. And what I'd like you to do, if we have time and if you have an interest, as I'm showing you different things, if you're interested in, let's say, can you do this? Can you compare this variable? Can you do a chart that does this? Drop those into the chat. If we have time, I'll get to as many as I can, and we'll just see and experiment on our own what this can do. And that's one of the things I've really found throughout this whole process is that it's sort of the fun is that you want to know if Copilot can do something, you just type in the command and ask it if it's not exactly what you want. Those of you who used AI, you know, the power of these tools is that this is a conversation that you have with this chatbot. So the first thing we're going to look at is this data set one. And I'm going to say, first off, in full transparency, and one of the beautiful things, because I've taught statistics for many years. And in the past, if I wanted to generate a data set, I would go into Excel and I would type in these numbers and do random numbers and all these things. I had Copilot generate this data set. And so I said, Copilot, give me a data set of 600 students, and these are the fields that I want. And it gave me that random data set. Then I said, add this column, add that column. Here's the options that I want for this column. I'm going to show you later on when we get to the regression model, some of the results. And I had said yesterday, this week when I was planning this, you know, I want this kind of result when I do this regression model. And I want these variables to show differences. And so it modified all that for me. So it used to take me, a lot of time to do, and I would only come up with maybe 10 or 20 records. I was able to create a data set of about 600 false records in about 20 minutes with these modifications. So here's the fields that we have in this fake data. We have age with a range of 18 to 52. We have a gender field, female, male, preferred not to specify, and other. Pre-test score, post-test score. So what we're going to do is we're going to experiment and see if there's different variables that affect somebody's, the difference in their score from pre-test to post-test. So we're going to look at their undergrad GPA, whether or not they're a first-generation student, whether they did their undergrad at a private or public school, their race, and the college. And again, this is just made-up data. So when it comes out and it says the mean of pharmacy is greater than the mean of dentistry, this is all fake data. So this isn't true. This isn't competition amongst our students or anything like that. All right. So any questions about the data set before I jump into Copilot? All right. So let me just jump to Copilot. And this is something that we all have access to by nature of being with UT Health Science Center. And so if you go to o365.uthsc.edu and log in with your UT credentials, you'll have this thing. And over on the left, you have this chat tool. And it says, hi, what can I help you with? So I generated this Excel sheet. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to add this file into Copilot. And it's going to upload. And I'm going to just start out. I'm going to say, what is the mean age? And I type that in. And so this is going to take a little bit. And so right now you're going to say, well, I could do this a lot faster in my own statistics package. So, but just be patient with me. We're going to continue to build on this. One of the things I really like about doing this in Copilot is that in the past, I would have to be very specific with the name of my fields. So if I had like student underscore age as the name of my field, when I was programming this in my statistical package, I would have to say, mean score of student underscore age. But now with Copilot, it's sort of, I've always wanted computers to respond to what I was really thinking rather than what I cleverly had typed. And so I have found that Copilot, as long as you say age or something close, it's able to understand what you're trying to do. You don't have to worry about your typos as you're typing in your prompts. It's able to figure that out. So just a great step forward. So here's my mean age, number of my participants, and then it also gives you a prompt. Can everybody see that? Is that big enough on your screens? Should I make that a little bit bigger? Is that better? So it's giving me the mean and the number of participants, and it said, here are some more things that you might want to ask. So it's always prompts with what else do you want? All right, let's do something a little bit different. I'm going to say, show me the descriptive stats. And so as you know, just as with other things, if you've used AI, that these are conversations now. So unlike Google searches where you had to repeat the whole thing with your new stuff. And so here's my descriptive stats. And I can say, give me, so notice it only gave me descriptive statistics of age because I had in my last one just asked for the mean age. So I'm going to say, give me a table of all descriptive stats. And so it's done this very nice table, downloadable, but I'm looking at this and I say, well, that's fine. What's missing here? Maybe I want the range. So add the range. It's interesting. While I was testing this, my prompt had been to add the 25th and 75th percentiles. And I guess it remembered because every other test I did, it didn't include that. But now that I've added it a few times, it's sort of understanding that this is something I want. So here's the range that it's added to this table. So I can continue building on this any way that I want. So that's the easy stuff, right? The descriptive statistics. What I might also want to do is create some visuals. So I'm going to say create a pie chart of age by percentage. And notice I just typed percentage wrong. Now, one of the other things that you notice it's done is that it automatically created the classes for me. So this is something that a lot of times you have to do yourself. But let's say that I want the classes rather than this is a class of 5. Let's say I want make this a class of 10. And so it's automatically done that for me. So very quickly. So let's move into some more visualization. So I'm going to say now create a visualization showing the distribution of score improvement. So again, this is a data set of 600 students, 600 fictional students, and we're going to look at they had a pre-test, some sort of treatment, and then a post-treatment. So pre-test, post-test, and I want to show that I want to see the difference in the distribution of the scores. And so type it in. Here's my distribution. Um, Gives me an interpretation that I can read through. And then also add some different things. So if I wanted to, for example, layer a normal distribution curve on top of this, I could say add a normal distribution curve. I won't do this for the sake of time, but I can do these kind of things and would just continue to add on and iterate for what I wanted to do. Let's start getting into differences in groups. So I'm going to say visualize the average score improvement by first generation student status. Notice I'm not correcting any of my typos right now. All right, and so I could again continue to build on this. I could say, give me a visualization score improvement, give me first generation and college, and so any way that I wanted to do. All right, so that's just the statistic, the descriptive statistics. Let's get into some real meat of this now. I'm gonna run a regression model in order to understand which variables influence the difference between the 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 difference between the scores. So I'm going to say run a regression predicting post-test score using the pre-test score, GPA, age, and first gen status. All right, so here's the results. Here's the fit of the model. So an R squared of 0.771. Here's my table with all my intercepts, and then the interpretation. So it says pretest score is the strongest predictor. First generation scored on average 1.7 points higher. Undergraduate GPA not a significant predictor. Age a small non-significant negative association. Now I also might want to look at race. So I'm going to say add race to this regression. So again, rather than having to type everything in again, I'm just iterating my conversation with Copilot. All right, so my model improves a little bit. and then all my numbers, and then I can come down here again and look at Copilot's interpretation. Now, again, we don't take this what this says uh, literally. We still want to analyze this and make sure that it's what we want and say. So in this case, Hispanic or Latino scored on average about 4.5 points higher on the post than white students, controlling for all these other things. Um, and so I can just um, continue to iterate on this. Okay, so I see a question, and that is an excellent question. Um, I'm gonna give Devin. I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Devin, because Devin and Federico last semester did a webinar on AI and journals, and that is linked from our homepage. It's a really good session. I would highly recommend it. Devin, do you have a elevator version pitch of what you would respond to that question about?
Yeah, so is the question what should we
Is
about
AI
publishing
data
a journal?
analysis accepted in a research paper?
Generally, no. I would check the journal itself, but generally, no. If it's like making decisions, then it's not accepted in most journals. They're changing. They've changed over the last year, the guidelines in journals, but I would always look at journals that you're going to publish in and take a look at that and go from there. And most journals these days will have lists of what is acceptable AI use and what is not acceptable AI use.
Yeah, so definitely check with whatever journal that you're wanting to publish in to ask that specific question. But I think that Devin's answer is right, is that for the most part, no. Great question, and an important question as well. Okay, so as you can see, this stuff is really powerful. It can give you results very quickly. Um, but we always remember that we still have to analyze what the computer is telling us and really think for ourselves. It doesn't tell us whether the model is appropriate. And it's just like any other tool that you've used for your stats. Uh, it's just giving us the results that we've asked for. Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Do you have any advice on how we should navigate data confidentiality and privacy when using AI for this purpose?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. So IT has given us tools, two AI tools that are given to us specifically to protect those kind of things. So Copilot, our Copilot title license, and UTverse, if you're not familiar with that, utverse.tennessee.edu, are specifically set up so that any data that we put in there is kept private for our own accounts. So it does not, you hear a lot about how data is being given to feed these large language models, and so these two tools especially are set up not to do that. Chat GPT is not set up for that, and so that's why we're encouraged not to use that tool, but to use Copilot and UTverse instead. Follow questions there. Devin, I'm going to ask you to do this one because you talked about this in your presentation as well. Chassis is asking, would a more appropriate use of AI for publication be to identify um, the steps to run a specific statistical analysis in SPSS?
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
think she's
that's
trying to step away from that line of what's appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate use. I linked to a sample journal, Teaching and Learning Excellence, from the International Society for the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, their AI use statement. And in there, I also linked to data collection and analysis. So you talk about AI use can be used to help organize or automate basic tasks and data collection or sorting through data, but not making decisions and actually analyzing the data. So that sounds like an appropriate use, is asking, having a conversation about what to run and what not. The next question is regarding journals. Is the issue the same for AI generated figures? Um, that's actually changed a bit in the last year. For a while, it was okay in most journals to use AI generated figures, and then lawsuits started coming in about copyright and all of that with generated figures, and so now we're seeing the bar move more towards don't use it for generating figures because the journals just don't want to take a risk that they'll be wrapped up in some lawsuit.
Thanks, Devin. Now I want to jump into Excel and how to do these things in Excel. So in Excel, you have a button now called Copilot. And if you click on this button, it gives you, again, the chat feature. You have to be logged in with your UT account in order to have access to this. But you can also start just asking questions in here. So let me ask, how many of you have done pivot tables? Just do a raise your hand or reaction. How many of you love doing pivot tables? Oh, of course, Judith. Um, uh, Pivot tables are for me, have always been a pain in the neck, and there's a steep learning curve to do this. But let me just do this. I'm going to say create a pivot table of race and college. And so while I'm doing this, so you can do any of the things that you would normally do in Excel. So if you wanted the mean of age, you would just type that into the prompt. And what's really nice, what it does is it not only gives you the answer in that chat, but it will also create a spot. Oh, I need to save this. It will create a spot in Excel for that formula. So if you go back and add additional records, whatever you've asked it to do will automatically update. I'm going to read some questions while I'm waiting. Can you upload an SPSS file into Copilot? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I've not ever tried. Does anybody know whether you can upload SPSS files into Copilot? That's a good question. I'm going to try that. Sorry, but it was an error processing your request. So imagine, if you will, this beautiful table that comes up on a different tab. I'm going to try that again to see if it will take this time. A beautiful table, color-coded, and everything. And if you go to the cells themselves, rather than just adding the number, the formula is all there with all the cross-references. And so again, as you add data, your pivot table will automatically update with your new numbers. Next, I'm going to continue working at it. We'll come back to it. So I have another data set. This data set is a little bit different. You notice I've taken out all the continuous data, and I just have categorical data now. And so what I'm going to do now is look at correlations and relationships between different fields and whether or not somebody passed. And I'm going to do this right in Excel. Here's my data, and I'm going to say, is there a relationship between between college and benchmark? And now it's going to be interesting how it comes out, because I've tested this several times to see how it works. And sometimes it just tells me whether or not it's a relationship. And sometimes it actually does a chi-square test and gives me all the numbers for it. So we'll see what it does at this point. This is one of those things where it works 20 different times when you test it, and then you go to your live session and it stops working. But it did create a really nice pivot table when I was doing it earlier. So again, this is taking longer than Digrin testing. Imagine, if you will, this beautiful table that gives you your expected outcome and your observed outcome, and then gives you the numbers from a chi-square, and then gives you an interpretation of whether there's a difference. And in this particular case, I had told it, I had sort of rigged it to give me a difference between college and benchmark result. I think dentistry was a little bit higher than the rest of it. And then it also gives you the statistical significance. So any questions about Copilot as a chat prompt, Copilot in Excel? I see thank you. The file type is not supported. CFO file format is supported by Copilot, so thank you for that. All right, thank you for that comment too. Yeah, publishing is just a really tricky thing right now, and you just be really careful about how you use it. All right, here's my, so you notice that it's created my table. And then it did not give me an N of a chi-square this time. So let me see how I can change that. Let me just say compare. Let me try a different one. Try compare race with benchmark. So while that's doing that, two things to remember, and I've said this a couple times, is one is that remember that Copilot does not check for assumptions. So you've typed in what you want that model to be, what fields you want it to be included, how you want it to go about the analysis. It doesn't question you on that. And so the old adage of junk in, junk out is still true with this. Secondly, and any of you statisticians know this, is that Copilot is not going to give you causality, right? And so just remember that as you're doing that. And then thirdly is that we could talk another hour about ethics and the connections between AI and ethics. And so just remember that the ethical interpretation of this is yours and not Copilot's. All right. Question about PHI. Can we use the UT account version of Copilot to submit PHI containing data sets? Yes, because everything that you type in there is protected and is not shared in the large language model. So the contract that we have with Microsoft specifically says that data that you put in to Copilot is protected and not shared with the large language models. All right, so a minute short. Any questions before we depart? All right, as always, you know where to find us. Send email to tlc@uthsc.edu or give us a call and we're happy to help. Thank you all.